Hello, everybody. I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I hope that each episode brings you inspiration. I hope it brings you love. I hope it brings you motivation. Of course, we're in the month of being love and caring. And I hope you're having all of that in your life because it is so important. Well, I know that you're going to be inspired by this next guest, and I am so excited about all of her energy that she brings to the world. So, let me tell you a little bit about her. Corbie has been reading since 1973. She has traveled coast to coast and into Canada as a full time intuitive counselor and is an inspirational speaker and facilitator. Corbie's certifications and affiliations include Certified Tarot Master and Certified Professional Tarot Reader, member of the American Tarot Association and the Tarot Guild, and ordained minister of the Sanctuary of the Beloved. Corbie prides herself on being a practical intuitive. Despite her elegant clothes and table trappings, most people say sitting with her is a comfortable, safe experience that feels like they're with a longtime friend. And I agree with that. Not a stranger spouting out a bunch of mystical hoodoo and pretense. And she doesn't believe in bad news. We have opportunities we can go after and challenges to get past. She says firmly, after dealing with 3 times with breast cancer, I learned that firsthand, my job is to give you the tools and courage to deal with both situations. Everything else is free will and is up to you. Such wise words. All right, let's bring our guest on. Hello, how are you doing, Corbie?
Rocking and rolling, my friend. How are you?
I am doing fabulous, and I totally agree with that bio that when people talk to you, it is like you're sitting with a friend and that you are so genuine and, to me, honest, and, as I should say, very wise because you have experienced so much. And I mean, you say it as it is, you don't put any poof poof around it, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I don't wear a turban. I don't have sequins. There's no glitter. Look, I'm from New
Yes.
York. It's boom, here's the stuff you need to know. Very practical.
Absolutely, absolutely. And and I love it in your bio that you have been a psychic medium since in the 70s.
hmm
So, can you kind of tell us how things have changed? I know that there are a lot of psychic mediums besides myself that are saying, you know what, we still have a long way to go.
We
So,
do.
can you kind of tell us how you have seen it change and where you see it going?
Well, in 1973, I was a senior in high school, and that was the year that Live and Let Die came out, and Spencer Gifts had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it because we were all hippies then. You had your elephant bell
Mhm.
bottoms and your David Crosby fringe jacket and your deck. Now, since then, while we're all over the place, it's no longer hole in corner. We do also have the difficulty of, um, I'll say it, the rise of Christian nationalism. And
Mhm.
they believe that what we do is the devil's work. I have
Mhm.
done psychic fairs where I've had rotten fruit thrown at me. I have had death threats on my
Mhm.
table, but I'm still going to do what I
Mhm.
do. But it's one of the reasons that I
Right.
generally do it at home now. Less overhead, easier on the car, and having that separation doesn't make a difference in how I
Mhm.
read, but it is simply safer.
Oh, absolutely. And I love how you said that too, because and I think technology has changed so much.
hmm
And I think I kind of want to add another little thing to it too. We can reach people all over the world like that.
Yes,
And you not traveling because you were traveling, and I know that, and as you know, that wears you out
it does.
because you're going place to place and all the energy is different in every place.
hmm
But you can reach so many people in different countries over the internet now, which I
Yes.
think is wonderful. So where do you think, and oh, another thing that you pointed out is, I grew up in Abilene, Texas.
Mhm.
where there were 3 different Christian colleges, and of
Mhm.
course, as a child that was very intuitive, I was shut down basically. So I understand what you're saying that, sometimes there's a in society where we're taught certain things that we, have to follow. Or like you said, we're gonna all go to hell for it. I guess you could say. So where do you think this is leading from here?
It depends on what country you're in, honestly. Um,
Okay.
Many of us have looked. I don't think we will be declared illegal at any time soon. But eventually, people may be, again, afraid to come to us the way they were
Mhm.
afraid in the 16th century when excommunication or you'd go to the tower or you'd be burned at the stake. So,
Right.
the most important thing is to realize there's a difference between fortune telling and intuitive counseling. But it's also one of the reasons, to be honest, that I became a reverend because you can
Mhm.
do pastoral counseling and you're generally considered safer.
I got you. I got you. And I think that's great advice because a lot of, people getting into the business, they don't realize that once you become a reverend, that does, allow you to make the job,
Hmm.
more extensive than what where you would think that you would go.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times also that a lot of psychic mediums don't realize that you need to really take classes so that you can actually tune into your gifts. So, how did you do that in the 70s? Were there that many classes that you could take, or were you
No,
self-taught?
I'm afraid that I
Okay.
am pretty much the exception that proves the rule. I
Yeah.
was taught for a few weeks by a medium about 15 years ago, but I read cards for 20 years. Loved the stories
Okay.
they told. But all of a sudden in the
Yeah.
early 90s, I could do hands-on healing and talk to dead people with no training. That was when the universe handed me my draft notice and said, "Hello, you're working for us." I went
Right.
full-time on 9/11. As we watched the towers burn, I turned to my husband. I said, "I need to do the work full-time. People need to know there are other answers out there." His response was, "I believe in you. Go do it."
Oh my gosh. And that is, oh my gosh, I have not heard that. That is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the other things that you're doing and about your journey, how you have, gotten to this place.
Okay. I have not had the easiest life when I was doing my pre-birth planning. I obviously went back to this smorgasbord line about 3 times. I have been through 3 bouts of breast cancer, 2 divorces, the death of 3 parents, 2 buyers and a stepmother I adored,
Mm,
rape, abuse, poverty, you name it. But I learned to live the examined life. The examined life
mhm.
is, this is a horrible thing happening and I don't want it to happen, but I can't stop it. What do I
Right.
need to learn from it? Because of how I work in the world, my next question is, how can I teach with it? But the next thing is next. You don't stay stuck in your story. Look, I know women 15 years ago, they had stomach cancer and they walk up to you and say,
Mm,
"Hi, my name is Mary Sue and I'm a cancer survivor." Look, in 1973, I was the Betty Crocker homemaker of tomorrow for New Jersey, but I don't
mhm.
talk about it now because that was then. And who am I now? Don't stay
Right.
stuck in the old stories.
And I totally agree. Because and we could go and talk about your books as well.
Hmm.
Because I really, really, I love that. I absolutely loved it. But I read out Clean Out Your Life Closet.
Hmm.
And it really spoke about that we go through those experiences for a reason, that we
Hmm.
learn through things and we move on. Even
That's
if it's negative, you find a positive out of that. Do you want to extend on that?
sure. It frankly, it's very much the way you can look at karma. Karma is not carrot and stick. As we found when we channels worked with Robert Schwartz in his book series on pre-birth planning. Karma is 5 things: healing, service, contrast, unbalanced energy, and healing of beliefs. So let's let me use the example of Ryan White. Ryan White was the kid that got AIDS from a blood transfusion in the late 80s. We didn't know much about AIDS then. He was treated like a pariah. His family was hounded. It was awful. But all of a sudden, he meets Elton John. And Elton is so taken with his courage and his
Mm,
good attitude, became close friends with the family, played at his funeral, was inspired by Ryan to get clean from the drugs and the drink and all of that, and has stayed clean since, and started the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which has raised half
mhm,
a billion dollars for HIV and AIDS research worldwide. Old line thinking is Ryan must have been an awful person. Look at that bad karma. But when you understand it's different, you understand his soul said, look, short life, painful life, but look at what we can do for the world. So his karma is actually that of service. So you don't know
mhm,
whatever you're going through could serve you, could serve somebody else by inspiring them. You don't know whose lives you're touching. It's one of the
mm,
reasons why it's so important for me to have these books out there. If I get hit by a bus
mhm.
tomorrow, I can still inspire people even though I am no longer here.
And you know what? You do such a fantastic job. Again, you are such a fabulous writer. And again, those words just flow and you know exactly what you're talking about. I can actually visualize in my head. And tell us, you know, another thing is I like the adventure page on
Mhm,
in that book, Clean Out Your Life Closet.
mhm.
Can you tell us what that is all about?
Sure. To do that, I'm going to go back to why I wrote the book in the first place. Every single one of us has bought a self help book at least once in their life. And I remember my first
Mhm,
one in 1968 when I was 13. And the first paragraph was Judy has a groovy wardrobe. Look, it's the 60s. So her hair is fab and her makeup is far out. But nobody likes Judy because Judy's fat. Right there in one paragraph, hundreds of
mhm,
thousands of girls were told, you are worthless unless you look like we tell you. So now everybody says, I can only learn from this book by memorizing what it says on page 82. Uh-uh. The adventure
mhm.
pages show you how you can learn what I'm teaching you, but you put it in context of your own life. Um, Here, let me read you one of my favorite chapters, How Perfect Destroys Good.
Perfect, perfect.
Where do you beat yourself up most often? Why? Reimagine one of those times with the idea that good can triumph over perfect. What does it look like now? How would your life change if you stopped thinking perfection was the only correct response to a project or a situation? See, you can't turn someplace in the book and find that. You need to plumb your own depths and look at your life and realize it's not as awful as I thought. There are nuggets of gold here.
Mhm.
You are your own best expert. Period. End of statement, guys.
And that, you know, and what do you say to the people that say it's really difficult because of everything, like you said, have they've gone through and they keep bringing that up? So, what do you tell them when it's tough? What would you say?
Look, I am not one of these authors or psychics who goes, "Mwah, my aura don't stink." I'm
Right.
ordinary in that I have no magic powers. I went
Mhm.
through all of those things that I listed at the beginning of this podcast, and I'm still here. This is what it looks like 19 years after a double mastectomy, 68 years old. You can do what I do. I swear you can.
See, and as you look at the camera, I mean, I think our listeners are, I mean, even if you don't have the camera, you're not on YouTube, you can also feel your words and you can see your eyes just you it's almost like you're talking to everybody that's online that's individual. You know what? It's like she's talking to me. You have
I'm
such
a
a great
Rev. I'm
delivery.
a preacher. I'm preaching, baby, because this is important.
I love it. I love it. Okay, well, let me bring up the other books because I think
Sure.
it's important.
Yep.
I didn't have enough time to read The Psychic Yellow Brick Road or You've Got Magic. Who Needs a Genie? So, can you kind of summarize what The Psychic Yellow Brick Road is about?
Sure. That book was written because of what I saw at a psychic expo 18 years ago, 19 years ago in Canada. Now, it was 250 booths. No matter how good the promoters are, they can't vet everybody.
Hmm.
And so across from us was one of the fake gypsies. You know, long skirt, jingling jewelry, bad Russian accent,
Right.
and you too can be gypsy. So a client was walking down the aisle looking at all the booths. The fake gypsy runs out, grabs her, and goes, "You don't need to pay 30, 40, $50. I need your palm for 10. Come." Drags her into the booth. 20 minutes later, we see this woman leaving crying hysterically, and a bunch of us run over. What happened? The gypsy said, "Oh, you have a family curse. How many in your family? Four? You have dog? $50 every family member, 25 per dog. We fix." And said if she didn't burn 400 specially blessed candles at the Roman Catholic Church, I bless real good. Only $1 candle. Her entire family was going to die in a car accident, and she bought it. This is not a book
Oh
that's
my
going to
gosh.
teach you how to be a psychic. There are 6,000 books like that. This will
Right.
teach you how to choose a good psychic, how to use the information, the questions you should ask, the questions you shouldn't, how to stay safe.
Mm.
And
I love it.
I
Love
don't,
it.
and the other thing, the end of the book does not say, and therefore you should only come to me, which some of the books do.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
never come to me, but that book keeps you safe, I did my job.
Absolutely. Oh, that's lovely. And I think you're so right. And there again, I think especially people going into the business,
Hmm.
they need to look at their ethics. They need to look at whatever they tell a client, that client's going to take in the palm
Hmm.
of their hand.
Hmm.
Because I know one of my lovely teachers, Lisa Williams, she said, you know what? Their life is in your hands. Whatever you say, they're going to take it
Hmm.
and they're going to follow it. And so that is scary because you don't
It
know
is.
how you're harming their lives, you know. Okay, how about you've got Magic, the genie.
You've got the magic who needs a genie. Look, I was
Genie?
on the road 18 years for 45 weekends a year. My nickname was the Travel Channel. I got off in 2019 because I had a herniated disc and pinched nerve, and the universe was
Oh.
basically saying, "We need to get you online because the year of murder hornet bingo and hold my beer is just around the corner." Um, so why should you have to reinvent the wheel? Every single thing that I know is in that book. And there are certain things that I call Corbie Gets Candid that are not going to be in any other business book.
Hmm.
For instance, if you're on YouTube, you're going to see this.
Yeah.
These are my sign in sheets
Hmm.
in the back of the
Keep,
book.
keep it up. Let me put the camera. I made the
Okay,
camera. Let me make.
there you go. Now, why is it important to have a sign in sheet? Even if you're not going to use the emails, you want to have their handwriting because
Oh.
in Canada, all my good stories are Canada, there was a young man who didn't like what I said. And the next day I found a pointed anonymous death threat on my booth. Well, it was in handwriting. We were able to match the handwriting with the handwriting on the sign-in sheet. We turned it over to the Ontario police and they took care of it. Like I said
Oh my
right in the
gosh.
beginning, our business is not love, light, and unicorn poo, guys. There are lots
Right.
of people out there who don't like us, are afraid of us, think we're charlatans who steal people's money. You have to learn how
Hmm.
to protect yourself if you're going to do this business, besides all of the
Right.
normal business advice that I give you in the book.
Right. And that, I would have never thought about that. So you're
Hmm.
bringing up stuff. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
So yeah, and a lot of times, even though they don't, like you said, they don't leave their email or anything.
Hmm.
At least you've got their handwriting.
That's right.
Wow, that's fabulous. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, and I got to bring this up. And I
Hmm.
mean, this is kind of changing the subject a little bit about your books, but
Okay.
but I've read too, because we have to bring this because a lot of people, through their childhood really need this inspiration from you.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and I loved it that it says Corbie has always been the different one,
Hmm.
a writer and a visionary in a completely medical family.
Hmm.
Father, a doctor, mother, a nurse, brother, a doctor.
Hmm.
She has always made her own path rather than take one cut for her by others.
Hmm.
And I absolutely love that. So was that difficult to do, to cut your own little pathway when your parents are telling you to do something else?
Yes, it was very difficult because there was no support for it. I mean, I could have
Yeah.
danced on the dining room table and recited Shakespeare. My father
Yeah.
was a wonderful writer, but we didn't find that out until after my mother died and he remarried and started writing poetry to my stepmother, some of which has been published. He
Mhm.
understood me
Right.
later in life, but because I was so different, I mean, think about it. Gifted children now, they understand. But
Mhm.
a gifted child in the early 60s, if we're bored, if we're ritzing around, if we're misbehaving, um, my parents had report cards that said, she needs to learn to be kind. She's not persecuted, and she says she is. And basically, it was very clear my teachers
Mhm.
couldn't stand me. Also,
Mm, mhm.
I had a third grade picture. All the pretty little girls were in the front, the Jewish kids, the fat kids, just
Yeah.
like in Adam's Family Value, we were in the back.
Right.
So
I see.
you got it. So I fought
Yeah.
for decades to find out who I
Mhm.
was, what I was good at. I have been an actress, an author, an inspirational speaker, a video producer, a legal assistant, an executive recruiter, and a psychic
Mhm.
because I knew that I was meant for something important, not famous, but important.
Right.
And that is where my sentence of passion got developed. Now, your sentence of passion is not who you are or what you do or even how you do it. It's your vapor trail. When you go skidding into heaven on ball tires and fumes in the tank, and God hands you a beer and says, so tell me, you go, this, look what I did. Isn't it cool? And my sentence of passion is cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. When I can take somebody from point A to point B when they thought they couldn't make it, whack them on their shoulder, say, here are your wings. You don't need a flight plan
Mhm.
now. Get, I'm living my bliss. But I had to live it myself first in order to teach
Right.
it authentically.
And that is very true. And, when you were talking about the 60s that we had certain expectations,
Hmm.
especially as a girl. I
Yes.
mean, girls were meant to be quiet and dress up all pretty and everything. So, so
Yeah.
totally different in society. And I mean, with the best clothes, with the best hair. Yeah. So,
Michelle,
and very, and
when you read for women, empty nest,
yes.
menopausal, and you say, what
Oh,
do you want? Do they go blank? I don't know.
actually, they do. Yes.
This is why.
Many times.
This is
Yeah.
why. You're four.
Yeah.
There's a plate of cookies.
Hmm.
You're a smart kid. There's more cookie in the big one than the little one. So you reach for it. And your mother goes, you're bad and you're selfish. So you're not even going to get a cookie. She gives it to your little brother who eats it at you. And then she says, besides, girls who eat cookies get fat. Nobody likes a fat girl. Do you
Hmm.
really want the cookie? So we are
And that's true.
bludgeoned
Yes.
by the time we're 7. Subliminally, if we want something, we're wrong, we're bad, we'll be punished, and we have to
Hmm.
watch somebody else have it. That's a lot to
Right.
break out of.
Right. Right. Oh, absolutely. And I'm just, again, you're just such an amazing person that you were able to do that and as strong as you are. And I know you do that, but a lot of people do not have that. They may have it in them, but they don't bring it up to surface, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I do.
So,
I do. I'm
yeah,
glad that
so
I can
much.
be that
Yeah,
trailblazer, but again, I don't
exactly.
use it to puff up the ego because then you just
No,
pop the
no, of
balloon.
course not. No, but of course not. But you're a good role model, especially for the young teenagers these days. And so hopefully if they're intuitive, they will find you or their mom or is listening to you will be able to say, wow, I really need to follow in her footsteps. So you've done a lot of inspirational messages and everything,
Hmm.
but think about something, overall inspiration for anybody, not everybody, not
Hmm.
just people in this business, but
Hmm.
what's a good inspirational message to tell people?
Believe it or not, from President Teddy Roosevelt, he and John Adams are my two favorites.
Hmm,
Teddy always
okay.
said, do what you can with what you have where you are. No, don't make any excuses. Don't
Mhm.
wait until X happens to be happy. Don't wait until you get permission to start finding your bliss. Just do it.
I like it. Just do it.
Yep.
Just that final thing. Wonder if Nike commercial actually saw that, and that's how they got the terminology.
I don't know, but it's probably copyrighted, so be careful.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do the wheel of the
Okay.
question of the last question. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we do the wheel?
Got 12 hours? I mean, I could just keep going, but no, let's
Oh,
respect
I
the time.
know. You are I know. It's like because I have watched other podcasts that you have been in, and
Mhm.
you just have so much knowledge, so much experience that you can talk about. And again, you're just so good at speaking and explaining things that, yeah, we could listen to you all day long. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Get the popcorn out, right? Okay, let's spin the wheel and see what question. And I always tell everybody, yeah, this is why. Choose, oh, choose decade. Okay. So let me explain that.
Okay.
So if you had to choose a decade that, and I'm not talking about, I know we could talk about past lives or anything else, but
Mhm.
for this life, okay, and
Mhm.
who you are now, which decade, and you can even think of a whole, way back when, which one would you want to live in
Oh, late 60s,
to
early
learn
70s.
lessons?
Late 60s,
Okay.
early 70s, when I was too young to do a lot of the stuff I would have wanted to do. It's like
Right.
everybody has a dream concert. Mine would be in 1970 at the Troubadour watching Elton John for the first time. But in
Right. Right.
that time, we still believed deeply that we could change the world. The
Right.
world was not yet uninhabitable from climate change. People were not getting shot in schools. We didn't have
Mhm.
plagues that we couldn't fight. There was hope. And I would love to be able to go
Yeah.
back there with this and see if I can make a difference.
Oh, I love that. And I would have been young, but I hopefully would have listened. Or my mother would have listened back then. All right, so what I want to do is I want to say one more quote
Mhm.
before we end the show.
Okay.
And this is something that I found, I believe it was on your Facebook page.
Mhm.
And I think it's perfect not only for February, but also like you said, the world needs this quote. We all need to be inspired by it. Okay, so it's we've been infected with the idea that love is an emotion only felt between two people, but love is universal, an energy, a contagious force, a gift. To offer money to a homeless person is to love. To save a worm from the sun is love. To smile at a stranger is love. To be grateful, to be hopeful, to be brave, to be forgiving, to be proud is love. And that's by A.R. Lucas.
Mhm.
And again, I think that is wonderful. So, where can they reach you, Corby, if they're going, oh my gosh, I need to talk to this lady? Where can they reach you?
Oh, Michelle, they can't avoid me. They really can't. First, you go to my
That's true.
website, CorbieMitleid.com. You can find me on Facebook at Corbie Mitleid Psychic at Fire Through Spirit. You can find me on Instagram, Pinterest, Medium.com, YouTube, all under Corbie Mitleid.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you again for sharing, taking the time for bringing us the inspiration that we need.
I had a great
I
time. Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank
And well,
you.
thank you. We'll bring out the popcorn next time.
Deal.
Thank you. Thank you.